Kia ora and welcome to another Physiotherapy Board Te Whare Tiaki Tinana podcast. In this episode, our professional advisors Damon Nurek and Marama Davis talk with conflict resolution expert Lance Burdett about the skills needed to address conflict, how to approach challenging conversations and topics, and how to de-escalate a difficult situation.
Kia ora everybody and welcome to our session this afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Friday afternoon. This session is about conflict and confronting situations, and we've chosen to open and close with karakia today. We know that this is often quite a challenging topic for people, bringing their own experiences to the table. So, kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa po ngāmu te moana. He hurahi mā tātou e te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa. Hui e tai ki. Thanks everybody. Yeah, this is one we've been looking forward to for quite some time. Having those potentially challenging and difficult conversations is something that I think we all experience during our lives as physiotherapists, whether that be with kiritaki patients, with colleagues, or just with others who we interact with. And it's part of our physiotherapy practice thresholds too that we're able to do these types of things. So it's really nice to be able to have a session on it today. And today we're looking at a couple of scenarios, really situations where we are on the receiving end of a challenging or confronting conversation, which again, I think a lot of us who've been around a while, we've had a few of these before. But also the second part of that being, how do we begin conversations that we think may be challenging or confronting in a way that is productive and moves the conversation forward? And again, this could be with kiritaki, this could be with colleagues, it could be other health professionals we're working with. So yeah, looking really forward to this session. We are lucky enough today to be joined by Lance Burdett. I was first introduced to Lance through some work with Wellington Free Ambulance, which he did, loved what he was doing, and really just wanted to bring him in to help us out with physiotherapy as well. Lance has got a really interesting history, including being the lead crisis negotiator for New Zealand Police for a number of years. So Lance, welcome to the session. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for the lovely welcome. It's great to be here. It's a very new world we find ourselves in these days, and it's having an impact on many, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is. It's probably a really good place to start. We've had conversations in the past and conversations between Marama and I about the way that things have changed, probably from when we started practicing quite a number of years ago up until now, that there has definitely been a change and maybe an escalation in those types of conversations that we're having. And what are your thoughts on where that's come from?
All the work I do is research-based. I work in neuroscience, and every piece of research I do is based on neuroscience. And the catalyst for what's happening at the moment, believe it or not, is lockdown. It's the perfect storm to make our brain go into a slightly hyper state that we don't feel. When we go into a small hyper state, it's only cortisol over a rush of sugars that go into the blood. Now, when you tell people what to do, stay home, have a fear of something in the background, and isolate people and compress them into small areas, the brain goes into this is different to so the brain looks for danger on two things. It looks for danger based on our past, which we had none, so it looks for difference the whole time, right? The brain's doing, it's called a negativity bias. Where's the risk? To jump on it or run from it, fight or flight. And because we were in that compressed environment where we weren't able to share experiences, it's not really, I replaced the word experiences with emotions, right? We shouldn't be talking about emotions, but we're not. So we'll talk about experiences. And we didn't have that ability, and our life changed. Simple examples, when you walk into a supermarket, the first thought of many people is, have I got toilet paper? And that's got to do with the way our brain works, because we were told we had to go and get lots of toilet paper because somebody put misinformation out, right? So these are things. So the brain is wired in a way that affects us. What it does is it compares where we've been to where we're going. Now, a simple example of our brain. don't go down by the river. The last time you went down by the river, a crocodile came out and nearly ate you. So the brain registers river, crocodile, avoid. What we remember from that point is don't go near the river ever again. Every time you go to that river or any other river, you'll think of crocodiles and danger. You won't remember that you got away from the crocodiles, because that's not what the brain's wired to do. About 80% of our memory is of negative things, because our memories are formed by two things. They're formed by repetition, that's how we learn to do things, or the emotion. So our longest, strongest memories are because we're in our most emotional state. And that's what's happening. And that's what happened back then. So weather events come along, everybody stay home. And so we think straight away of, I'm not going to say it, but that word, lockdown.
That's really interesting. And thank you, Lars. And also talking about, so I know we talked earlier about what's, you know, some of the feeling behind some of those things being lost, that we lose our freedom or we lose our control of a situation.
Yeah, we fear, our biggest fear. So we're born with two fears: fear of falling and loud noises. That's self-survival. That's the stem. It's hardwired there, and the stem has got a lot of things to answer for in our new world, because it's holding us back from keeping up, because it's the hard wiring of the brain is the stem. And we have one fear, and that is loss. Loss of life, loss of control, loss of dignity, loss of respect, loss of control. It's all centered on loss. And so that's how the brain works. When it sees some form of no control. Well, let's look at, burnout, which is very, very common at the moment. We fear a loss of control. And that's how burnout happens, because we try hard to work against it rather than to back off from it. Because of that loss, we don't want to lose loss, so we work harder, and then we end up, I had burnout and ended up in a very bad place. So that's what the brain is wired in, these certain things. Now, there's some things you can do to stop what's happening at the moment. What's happening at the moment is anger and aggression has escalated 35% globally. Now, I got asked a wonderful question yesterday, but that doesn't mean that's not the reason why countries are warring. Well, how do wars start? One person arguing with another. So it's just everyone's brittle and fragile at the moment. If you've got a dry mouth most of your day, a headache that won't go away, you could be having random thoughts about your past, mood swings over your day. What are some other things? Having trouble getting to sleep, waking up 3 or 4 times a night. If you are, it's every 2 hours. It means you're waking up at the end of a REM cycle. What else is going on? You think something when you get to bed and you try to sleep, you think, oh yeah, I've got to do that. You dream it all night. So you wake up in the morning thinking you've never actually slept, but you have. Our unusual dreams we're having are actually a mashup of our memories, as the brain is in this auto problem-solving tool. Whenever we have something that's either in the background or we're not, so in other words, we're not conscious of it, it's the pre-conscious, or we don't deal with things, the brain goes into what's called catastrophizing. And the simple way of describing this, an example, you're leaving home, off to work, partner at home, bye, gotta go. Just as you close the door, you hear a voice from inside. Yeah, whatever. And you think, you wait till I get home. I'll deal with this then. And the brain says, why wait till you get home? I can help you. You've been late home quite a bit recently. Yeah, I have. You've been working hard, eh? Yeah. You haven't been sleeping well. No, I've been grumpy. Oh, yeah. Do you remember a year ago you had that argument that lasted a whole day? Yeah, I did. Do you remember when you first met? Didn't go as well as you'd hoped, right? No. Do you remember when you were 7? Hey? So with all of these, whenever the amygdala sparks up to a certain height, it puts a mark in our memory. That's to avoid in the future.
So I'm going to ask a question at this point, is in terms of really good examples, and if we're standing on the other side and we're observing this as a physiotherapist and the services that we offer, how would that be seen?
It manifests itself usually in the face and in the behaviour. Now, hurting people tend to hurt people. So their words will be shorter, they will be blunt. You will see oftentimes in their face, they're like this. if they are extremely angry, if they have been going through a journey, and let's be honest, who's not going through a journey at the moment? And it's an accumulation of other things in our background and in our past and from what we've learned and our forebears. It all comes through in different ways to everybody. So every person's different, and that has to do with our memory is our biggest difference. And so it manifests in different ways. But if you've got somebody who's in extreme anger, they stare at you looking into one eye and they don't blink. The blink is the big one. If they're not blinking, it means they've got a heck of a lot of adrenaline. Now, when we go into fight or flight, two chemicals are released from our adrenal glands, adrenaline and cortisol. So the ones that I talked about before with not sleeping and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty much most people these days, that's from cortisol. You don't even feel it. It's the adrenaline that the people have when they come in. They've built themselves up for it. They've been going through their journey for a while, perhaps. Not just what you see in front of you is not the story, the whole story. And as physiotherapists, you would tend to want to treat, so where does it hurt and what can I do? And let's talk about that. Now, I know you haven't got time, and nor would I suggest you ever talk about all what's behind it, but just allowing them to express what they're going through for a moment or two, and then validate what you've been going through so much. You've done well to come here. Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, we'll try and get this sorted. Just that little moment of thank you. It's all people are looking for.
You're quite right that we as physiotherapists have got that really good skill of not only verbal cues but the non-verbal, and like what you're saying is having a really good look, literally look at what's going on, and then being able to decide in your head is it important to talk right now or to listen.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting. Martam and I were talking earlier about. We've looked back on the history books, and since records began, the term "calm down" has never worked. I think everyone's probably tried it at some stage.
You need to take a deep breath.
It goes horribly wrong. It has the exact opposite effect. So, again, if we find ourselves in that situation where we are confronted with this, I know obviously that validation is a really important one. Are there other tools that we can do to de-escalate a situation to the point where we can then start to have a conversation?
The first thing for me is to control yourself, not to react. We want to act. So it's controlling our emotional response first so that we're coming from a rational part. Now, I'm going to show you very quickly how the brain works, and everyone here, please trust the process. I'm just going to mention some words that will change your mood, and then I'll show you how to change it back. Simple example of how it works. If I was to mention words like, what have we got? Redundancy, restructure, bankruptcy, divorce, heart attack, cancer, mental health. So I would have said something, you would have heard it, the amygdala tagged it, you went back to your memory for a thought for a split second, and because you had that thought, cortisol was released, therefore you did not come to your prefrontal cortex to remain calm. You should have come to here to say, it's just Lance talking, you're safe. But no, every time we get triggered, every time we are put in a situation of fight or flight, we have no control over it. So what we do is we control it after it happens. Now, there's two options for everybody. The first one I'm going to give you is to show you how to clear your head of all thoughts, particularly when you're feeling overwhelmed. I often go and have a cup of tea, but that doesn't work either. You've got to do this. So now that you've been in that little cusp for a while, we'll all do this together. I want you to take a very big deep breath through your nose, fully inflate your lungs, and I'm going to get you to sigh as hard as you can, and I'll ask you a question. Here we go. Big deep breath, go. Sigh. Now quickly think of something. Apart from food or what you love dearly, there's probably nothing else there. And now you're calm, and some of you will be laughing. This is the way the brain works, right? So when we short breathe, the alveoli in our lungs that absorb the oxygen collapse, so we're not getting pure oxygen. So the way to re-inflate them is sigh, because when you sigh, they all collapse and they have an automatic, and off they go. But taking to your point, you don't want to sigh in front of somebody who comes...
It probably is
especially with an eye roll.
The same reaction.
The eye roll's a side, isn't it?
Down, yeah.
The eye roll is another side. It's like, when I talked about eye rolling, somebody said to me, I know a really good ophthalmologist that can fix that for you. It's the eye rolls. No. So if you're in a situation when people are just, all they're doing is expressing their emotion, it has to come out. If it doesn't come out, it will fester underneath. So when they are doing this expression, it doesn't take long. What do you say to an angry person? Nothing. And you wait for them to finish. So as it's coming out, do this now. Breathe out slowly. Everybody breathe out slowly. Just keep breathing out. And keep breathing out. And now you're in calm, won't you? The answer is yes, because when we breathe in, our heart rate goes up, and so does our head rate. When we breathe out, our heart rate goes down, and so does our head rate. That's the mechanics of the body. I call it the mechanics in the world that I do a lot of work in forestry. That's the mechanics.
You're going to be loved by physiotherapists because that's 101 breathing.
Oh, so I'm on your language. Good.
You've grabbed our language.
So that's the mechanics of the body. Not the biology or whatever. It's the mechanics. That's how it works. Because when we get triggered and when somebody comes in, we're also fighting mirror neurons. Now, mirror neurons are interesting. When you see somebody who's sad and down, how do you feel? Most people, because we've all got empathy to a greater or less degree, feel sad. When somebody smiles at you, what do you want to do? Not quite like that smile, but you tend to want to smile back, right? If I was to have a drink of water, some of you will feel a bit thirsty. How's that? What about if I yawn? And right now, some of you are going, try not to yawn.
Try really hard not to.
So what happens when somebody gets angry? Do you see how it works? It's not our fault. We're wired to protect ourselves. We mirror each other. So if we can take that moment of let it happen, and then think, when in doubt, breathe out. Don't count. These breathing techniques where you count, your brain stays engaged. We want to disengage the automatic function completely, and it just disengages. And from then on, slowly breathe in and slowly breathe out. We'll have time at the end of this workshop to put you into the alpha zone. You will put yourself into the alpha zone where there is little thought. And so the breathing is the first thing you can do. And then as soon as you breathe out, and I recommend on all occasions when somebody gets angry, because anger is the big one at the moment, is breathe out. That gives you a little bit of time to think. And once somebody comes in, your first question to them, or your first comment should be, what's happening? What's going on? And let them talk. And it only takes, so we have to vent, remember this, at least 2 times, usually 3 times we have to vent. When the last time we all get angry, you might have can remember back the time you got angry. Did somebody say one thing to you and you said, oh, that's great, thank you? No. Yes, the last time I'm coming here. Right, we have to have that second vent. So wait for that second vent and then ask them a question.
So what you're saying
how did all this start?
You're creating space, giving that person time. That's what you're saying?
That's it, 100%, Marama. That's because if we push on people, they push back. Or if it's our whānau, our family, we push them away. We try to help people too much. Don't help people. Hurting people are hurting and they hurt others. So help them to help themselves. Put it back on them, and that gives them that sense of control. Therefore, they no longer feel loss.
I agree, totally agree. We were talking about this earlier, Darren and I, as saying that it's almost like providing the tools for that person to then be able to help themselves. But that sounds sort of like patronising. But in terms of as physiotherapists, we love to help and provide solutions.
I was thinking about us as fixers. I actively want to do something to immediately make things better, and I think that's the temptation I've certainly had in the past before starting to learn some of these techniques of cutting in on someone who's ranting, or I can help to fix this. And so I think that advice to sort of give that space, let them go. Can be really helpful.
Look, we go back to that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The slower you go. Now, I've just, and I was in Aotearoa with RAFs, the primary health provider down there, and we had 3 doctors came through the de-escalation workshop. And every single one of those 3, they were in different workshops, said, I don't have time to do this. Yes, you do. if you don't do this, you won't have any time at all, because you'll just be arguing the whole 15 minutes and trying to get what's wrong with you out. It doesn't take long. How long can you actually, well, I can go for a bit of a while, but most people can't go that long. It's just one or two expressions of how they feel, and all you do is validate. Yeah, it's a challenge for everybody. Saying things like, that sounds pretty tough to me.
I think in terms of great tools, great ideas, what happens when it's not working? Or your feeling is, it's happening to me, or you're talking to me in a manner, I've given you the space, I've done my breath subtly so you can't see it. I've had 3 bouts from yourself to me, and then I'm starting to feel a little bit unsafe. What's some other suggestions?
The other thing is, when you're with people, don't stand directly in front of them. So if that starts to happen, you must change something. So you're either going to have to change their way of thinking to, in other words, right, let's talk now about where you're hurting, whatever it might be. But that's kind of a deflection, and that undercurrent will still be there. But you can do some simple things like, I'm going to move all this out of the way. So how am I in the middle? I'm about the middle there. Now, people will want to confront by standing in front. Right? You don't want me in your face. Right? So that's the way it works. Don't stand directly in front of people. So if I move off to the side, do you see how it's less confrontational? Now, all you do, you don't do that. All you do is just take a step back 45 degrees, drop onto one leg and breathe out. And so by moving our eyes, I don't know if I can do this. I will do it. I'll give it a go. I want everybody in this room to look at the monitor where I am now. I want you to look somewhere. If you've got a photo, something you can read out the window, look at something, then look back at your monitor and do not blink. Right, so now that I've said do not blink, you want to blink. So get your blinking out of the way. Right, you got it? Right, now look at the monitor, look somewhere else, and then focus on that. Don't blink though. And now look back at the monitor. So your eyes will be bigger sources. And you may have sore eyes. That means you're trying to multitask, but that's another workshop. Now, when we swap from one thought to another, or somebody moves, or something happens, we blink, and that fills in the gap. So when the brain, we can hold 3 separate thoughts in our prefrontal cortex, and as what we're doing, we're multitasking, we're moving from one to the other. There's a blank in our thought of less than half a second. Same when you're driving your car, you're looking straight ahead, you look across to your maps, you don't see it. What you don't realise, it's not your eyes focusing, it's the brain saying, what are you doing? So this is the value of neuroscience, i.e. Brain imaging. It's showing this blank. So just by stepping off the side and breathing out. The other thing around breathing out is, I go back to mirror neurons. When we get adrenaline, for example, we speak louder, longer, faster. Now, when you breathe out, your volume drops and you speak slower. Don't believe me? Breathe out fully and say the word hello. Everyone breathe out. Now say hello.
Kia ora.
Hello. It comes out weird, right? It's quite a low volume. So if you can practice just breathing, just breathe out a fraction and then ask your questions, they will mirror you. And that's how crisis negotiators, we don't start shouting at people when they're shouting at us. We don't tell them you need to calm down. We let them go. We've got a bit more time. But, when I hear medical practitioners say to me, I haven't got time to do this, well, you haven't got time not to. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to be there for a lot longer. It's working with people. You push on people, they come back and they push twice as hard, or you push them away.
So would this be the same sort of strategy to deal, in the situation where it might be, your colleague, or it might actually be my line lead? Is this the same sort of technique that you'd suggest, or?
No. Because they'll know what you're doing anyway, If you talk with your colleague and you go...
Watch the webinar.
No. So with colleagues or professionals or somebody who you're dealing with that's other than, who you're seeing, your client, the best thing to do is the next day. Now, at the moment, workplaces, I'm doing a lot of work with, not just what they call, I don't like the term workplace violence. When I first heard it, I thought, you've got violence in your workplace? What it means is, but when we have that conflict or when we don't know what people are going through, when none of us know what people are going through. And so what you do is when somebody says something that you think is inappropriate or they do something, some form of action, you think, that's not right. You have two options. Bring it up at the time. No. Why? Because it's not going to end well. Because you're reacting instead of acting. Now, we must talk about what's in our head within 6 hours. If you don't talk about it within 6 hours, the memory sets and then catastrophizing starts. So after we've dealt with that little bit of, we go and speak with another colleague or somebody we trust and say, this is what was said, this is what was done, what do you think? So we're bringing that objectivity into it. And they might say, well, I think what they said was all right. I think you might be being a bit precious. Oh. Or they might say, no, that's not right. So if they say the second part, then you think, right, the next day you go and speak with that person. They'll value what you've done or not, depending on who they are. And you say to them, yesterday when you said this or did this, can you explain a bit more about what you meant by that? Now here's your chance, right, for them to, and often they say, oh, look, yeah, sorry, it was a bad day, or yeah, I was really busy, I shouldn't have done it, I apologise, or they might, whatever they say. That's great. And they'll remember you, and you can finish it off by saying, look, we're all going through this stuff at the moment, aren't we? If, however, they say, well, that's just your opinion, okay, the next time it happens, because it's going to, it is, would you like me to leave it till the next day like I've done now to bring it up, or would you like me to bring it up with you at the time you say it? Now, what you've done there is in a nice way of saying, I don't see that as respectful, and I would prefer you not to. And I will bring it to I will hold you. It's about holding people to account for behaviours at the moment, right? And not by punishment. Don't start me on that. I'll go for 4 days on that. It's about just bringing it to their attention that what they were doing was inappropriate and I won't tolerate it.
I really like that, Lance, because it comes from a place of respect. You might not be respecting that behaviour, but you're giving that person the opportunity to, can you explain what was meant by that, rather than, that was really inappropriate what you did. I think that's giving that person the opportunity. So subconsciously, you're giving a bit of a respect. I'm giving you that respect to be able to respond. And then you're giving your mind its own time to go, well, then what am I going to do next?
And
look, I think it's about the mana of everybody, even if it's somebody who's, it's just, if otherwise we become them. I hear a lot around, if you keep talking like that, I'm going to end the call, or I'm going to get you to leave. Rather than that, we can swap it and go, when's a good time for you to come back? Would you like me to make another appointment a bit later on? Because without saying anything else, they go, why? Well, the conversation, I just noticed that it's not going as well as I'd want it. And so, you want, oh no, I'm sorry. That's usually what happens. And it might be that you do have to take that break. It's a bit like the same thing when we have people who are really vulnerable. When you have a vulnerable client, slow yourself down. Either they're not understanding or they're in a power of hurt. And on occasion we'll say, look, do you want to get, I noticed you come with somebody, do you want to get them in here and I can talk with, it'd be better if I talk with them. What are you doing? You're disrespecting them. So all you say is, look, is there anyone else you want to invite in when you come next time that might find this information I'm giving you helpful? The same thing's going to happen. They're going to come in and yes, they're going to explain it to them later.
I also very much like the way you use questions as well, and giving people, there's options there.
That's
and
right.
that immediate, you don't feel, the person on the other end of that is not going to feel sort of pigeonholed into a corner of, hey, I'm going to do this. The fact that the first example you gave, would you like me to bring this next time this happens? Would you like me to bring it up at the time or later? as you see, it sends a message that you don't find it acceptable, but also gives them you've got a choice. I'm giving you a choice. There is an out.
Very nice there.
Because it is very easy, I think, as you were talking earlier when we were saying, if we follow and mirror that behaviour and we immediately come back with, I remember the 3 V's you talk about, we sort of get into venom, violence and volume.
The volume, venom, violence, yeah.
That it might feel good for about 3 seconds.
But that mirror will crack if you're mirroring. There'll be a crack on someone's mirror.
Yeah. It's never that productive.
I'm just wondering, and we did talk about this earlier about with the survey that we did for physiotherapists about discrimination and physiotherapists being on the end of discrimination. And it can be, as we know, discrimination, there falls out of it lots of different areas in terms of, I don't need to delve into them because I don't want to pigeonhole my next question. If the physiotherapist it's not the first time that they've experienced this particular behaviour and getting a little bit nervous about how do I broach this. What I can hear what you're saying in that last example, but it is a brave thing to do to be able to go, excuse me, I'm going to go away and think about this for 6 hours. I think that's beautiful because
that has to be brought up at the time.
Yes, and what are some examples that could be tried that might have failed before in trying to broach it? I know it's a really heavy question.
No, it is, and it's one that I hear a lot. So I do a lot of work with parking officers in Auckland at the Auckland Transport, and a lot of them are of different ethnicities, and they get hit with this all the time, this inappropriate comments about their race and So when you bring it, I've seen it being brought up at the time, you're racist, that's not going to help anyone, right? So what we do is we say things like, I'm just wondering why you would say that comment. Why would you make that comment? You can do that if you want to. You could say, if it's something like, why don't you go back home? Well, actually, I was born here. New Zealand's my home. Or I was born there, but I live in New Zealand now. There's some little things that you can do that just go, I'm here. Dude.
Again,
I always say dude because that's generally what it is. But it's just bringing it to the attention. So we must hold people to account for things. If you noticed, if you walk away, your brain will eat you up. Yeah. Next time this happened, you're going to do this, and you go, okay, I will. And that's that catastrophizing again. The best thing you can do when you're going through and you're doing that catastrophizing, there's 3 things you can do, right? You can write things down. Write with a pen on a piece of paper. Now, writing things gets it out of your head. There's lots of wonderful research on this. Helps, right? Now, it must be a pen with a piece of paper because that's how we're hardwired. 60% of the chance of achieving all your goals if you write with a pen, 40% if you type them.
Wow.
Without a doubt. You give a young child a pen and a piece of paper, never seen it before, show them where to draw, leave them alone. Where do they draw? On the walls. Yeah. On each other and everywhere else, right? It's hardwired. It is the stem. So we can write things down. Next best thing we can do is read. Aren't we great? Be careful. The first thing you read is stuck in your head when you're in a state of heightened emotions. Examples, if a dog could speak and say one word, what would that word be? Some people think woof. That's what I think. Other people think food or walk if they have a dog, right? Because it's that first thing we get told is stuck in our head forever. It's called an anchoring bias, as is the first way we respond. We're not only trying to overcome mirror neurons, but our very first response is what we will always go to because the brain remembers what you did to get away from the crocodiles, so keep doing it. So we've got to overcome all of that sort of stuff, right? So it is about experimenting with things. I was in a workshop the other day and I got just out of nowhere a question, why should I listen to an old white man? And my first thought was, old? Oh, how hurtful. All right, because I am a white man. I like to think I a little bit more wider thought process than that, because my research it's just not United Kingdom and United States. It's across a wide depth and breadth of cultures as well. And so it really is about just taking that time to think. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where someone's using a racist comment or whatever, don't look at them while responding. The reason for that is because that's what you did the first time. So the way to break it, and this is what I finally realized in this workshop, is I looked and I could see hurt, and I looked away and I breathed out, and it just came to mind. I don't want you to do any of these. So then I was able to turn back and respond. So that's the way it works. If you react immediately to it, you're better off. If you said something to me, that I thought was inappropriate, you'll see me go, and I'll come back. Now, during that little look away, what are you thinking? What's he thinking?
Yep.
So they're thinking, got to get people here. Nothing good happens in the back. Got to get them to the prefrontal cortex, to the front, to get them to think about their behaviour. And if we do it in a way that's less blunt. So in the UK, some research came out in 2020. Number one, we're less blunt with people when they're in states of emotion. They examined 75 million messages into a crisis centre. Number two, we're more inclusive with our words, changing the words I and me to us and we. Instead of saying, I'll have a look and see what I can do, that's okay if you're dealing with somebody. I'll have a look and see. I'll have a look and see what we can do if it's an organisational thing, or if you want to get the person into the conversation, let's have a look and see what we can do. Now, that last one is where the gold is. And the third thing is, if you start your sentence with an apology. Now, how often do we say to somebody, unfortunately, I can't? There's 3 negative words. So rather than say that, you might say something like, that's something we're unable to do because, and tell people why. We're born curious. People want to know why. When people come to you, they want to know why. We all search for the why. Here's a simple example. If you walk past a door of an office and you see staff only, what do you want to do?
Yeah, they're nosy.
Yeah, straight behind.
Because it says only. If you remove the word only and it says staff, you know what's behind the door, so you don't care. It's that word only. I love when I see authorised personnel only. Challenge accepted. I'm going through that door. I don't care. I'm going to tailgate somebody, and I can hide behind the fact I was just doing a security review.
I love it how you're talking about why, because it brings back memories, and you're talking about memories before, and I love this memory. So it's a positive memory, and I'm getting it quite a lot these days with little people. So it's why.
They're born curious.
Exactly, we're curious. 100%. But also in terms of, Darren and I were talking about this earlier, we do lots of talking, and it is trying to figure out the why. Figuring out the why this has occurred or why this reaction is really assists with being able to process it yourself and then come up with strategies that you can navigate through it, and also help to inform that person if they are kiritaki or client or patient. I'm not sure how that would work as well. I can understand the why with my maybe a colleague, and we could talk about it because of that relatively even power sand bank. But if I'm looking at it from my line lead or my manager or the owner of where I'm working, understanding the why is great for me, but how would I start that conversation with that person? That's that challenge of what do I do next?
Beautiful. Right. Very well said. I couldn't have said it better. Now, the way crisis negotiating works is it's a 3-step process. And people are in crisis at the moment. There's no other word for it. We're all tired. We're not having a good night's sleep, and we can cover that off. Can I cover it off now? There's a document you can go to our website and get for free. It's 16 pages long. It will put you to sleep just reading it.
Oh, I think I need to go back to that 16.
Doctors are giving it out to patients now, I found out. So that's validation because I work with Te Whara Ora. and their staff have been reading it and going, and I'm happy for people to, and plus it's a really good validation for our product, right?
Thank you.
And so,
send people.
yeah, and so this whole thing now, the way crisis negotiating works is it's what's going on right now. So let them vent. Then you take them back one step. How did it start? And then let's move forward. And it can be done as simply in one sentence. So we call it facts, feelings, future. I can see that you're angry. This is causing concern. How did it happen? How did it start? One sentence, 3 parts. So if you can set the scene of the rest of the conversation, you set the scene in your very first sentence. You think about this. The very first way somebody responds to you, that's the anchoring bias. That's your anchoring reception of it. So if we are now aware of it by just breathing out a little bit, 3-step rule. So what's going on? What's happening? I like that word, what's happening. Now, we've got a bit of time, so I'm going to just show you a question and show you and see if this will be helpful. It's going to come out of left field because that's what Lance does. So you see somebody who's vulnerable, somebody who's struggling. We've already done the one where people don't understand or they want somebody, a support person. But what happens if you really think there's something in the background? So what you say to them is, what's happening? What's happening? What's truly happening if you want to? And they'll come out with something that's maybe is, maybe isn't, because some people don't like to disclose everything. Then you say, but now what happens when people become vulnerable? They turn their body. Its eye contact completely disappears. And that's not a cultural thing because I know the different cultures. They won't even look. All cultures that have less eye contact still at some point lift their head and I'm still here, I'm listening, right? So they have that, it's a sign of respect. But their body turns to protect their heart. They turn away from you. If that happens, all you have to do is say, I've just noticed that something's happened, you've changed your posture's changed. Is it something I've said or done? You take the hit, because it could be. Mm. And then they'll say, well, yes, it was this. Oh, what I meant by that was, and you can explain it, right? So that's that simple. If they say, no, it's nothing you've said or done, it means that there's something going on in the background that's been brought to front of mind for some, whatever reason it is, whether it's the conversation or it's just we have these random thoughts that I've been talking about. Is it something I can help with? Do that. Is it something I can help with? Because you might be the first person to disclose something. No. So this person's closed down. And so you say, look, I'm always here. Next time, maybe. And you just plant the seed. That's all you have to do. Knowing somebody is there that they can reach out to. I do this every time, every workshop I do. Look, if anyone wants to, no cost, if you want to get in touch with me, do so, please. I'll be here. I'll send you some stuff, and that's your start. I won't fix you, but I'll just listen, and then I'll give you some information about that you'll find helpful. So that few people do, because they know that they've got someone, and that's that sense of security. There's another part to this. If you really have concern, now, if you get people like me, I'm on a journey. I'm into my 4th year of rotator cuff. I'm trying to find out things with different surgeons. They have all sorts of comments, and now I'm overwhelmed with. I even asked AI. Great. I had an argument with AI, but that's a different story. And so I asked, what can I do? And there's some things that's got to do with the atrophy and the fat, the muscle turned to fat, and I'm stuck with it forever. But, sometimes your pain is there, your pain, everything is, your baggage, you're tired. And if you see that tired look in somebody, all you have to say is what's happening. And they'll come back with something. You say it a second time. That's great. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it, what's happening. And then the third part of that is, what else is happening? So you don't give them, after they told you the second one, you don't give them a chance to think, what else is happening? And that's where you break through. The brain is wired in 3s. We communicate in 3s. We do all sorts of things in 3s.
It's all about that triangle.
Yeah.
100%, and you close it. And I was on a marae. I do a lot of free work with in the community. I was up on a marae up north, and this lady was sitting there, and she just said, "Oh my gosh." And I'd taken her back. I didn't realise that she'd have been very unwell, and her niece had done it, because kids are clever these days, aren't they? And her niece kept saying, "Auntie, what's wrong? Auntie, what's wrong?" And she said the third time, her niece dropped down to get her, look at her in the eye, and said, "What's wrong?" And she just broke down. And she, the kids know.
Yeah.
It's that third one that you break through people. So whether or not you want to use this, you're all now being trained in crisis intervention, and you shade the tape. I can give you a certificate if you want, because we're doing the wrong thing. I promise you, we're doing the wrong thing with the way we are. Our brains, all of our brains are different after 2020 and before that. We have more information in our brain than ever before, so our amygdala are now enlarged. They are hypervigilant, and that's what's causing anxiety. So my last book was written on anxiety. It came out August last year.
Yeah, less downtime. Our brains have got less downtime because
we just
it's always on our person.
But
So-
never not running.
We are hypervigilant to risk, and this is what's... Now, the thing is, when it is the brain, that's burnout. If it's the body, and I hear... we put out lots of, 3 a week from LinkedIn on our social media on LinkedIn, and I got a guy... I grew up my whole life working in a cave and a mine and blah, 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 blah. I never got burnt out. I said, that's because you're physically working, but I bet you got an injury. Oh, lots of them. You've answered your own question.
Yeah.
Because burnout comes from thinking, it's psychological. So you're doing the same thing, so some bits are going to break off. It's the same as when you do have a bad day. Something happens, talk with somebody about it. What happened, how you felt. Now, when you talk about how you feel, it reduces the mark in your memory, because the memory's held by the emotion. So this happened and I was angry. This happened and I was right. So that's how you do it. That's your first part. You might need, if it plays on your mind the next day, go and speak with somebody else. We must speak about things twice. Apart from saying within 6 hours, the second time is the most important one, because it's the next day and it's more rational. What happened? Then you talk about, what did you do well? Because we're doing this the wrong way. Team. We are talking about what went wrong and how we can fix it. We should be talking about what we did well, and then what we might do differently next time.
It's flicking it, isn't it? It's flicking it to make it a positive of what did we do well.
And this is what positive psychology shows us, And sometimes we need, I'll go for help. And I do this in workshops. I get everybody, right, put your hand up if you've been for physio. And all their hands go up. Yeah, I have. Oh, so you've had therapy. And the hands come down and the faces go. And I had a discussion with a lady. She says, I haven't had therapy. I said, yes, you have. She said, no, I haven't. I said, who did it? She said, a physiotherapist. Oh, okay. And I said, what do they do? What do physios do? They push on the part that hurts. Why? Because they love their job.
I think that's absolutely fantastic
story
of most of us.
I've been having deep needle stuff, right?
Exactly.
Now, the thing about this is, what do counsellors do? They do the same thing. They push on the part that hurts. So you're actually going for brain physio. So if we can bring this back to normality, make it normal, make these conversations we're having now normal. If everyone knew that everyone else is angry, we might all start to just breathe out.
And I think it's like what you were saying at the very beginning, is that these are challenging conversations, and being brave and starting somehow, and it might not be a verbal, it might be a non-verbal, and then review. We're good at reviewing.
I'm mindful of time. I know we're pushing a bit over time, but for those who've joined us, and thanks for joining us. Lance, just before we finish up, I know you're talking right back at the beginning about the breathing and the alpha, and I was wondering, listen, have you got time to take us through that?
And that could
It's literally short. I know we've gone over time, but I could
We love to chat.
4 days is my best. I could talk for 4 days without a slide. Right, I'm not checking my emails. I've got a timer. Now, don't count when you do this. This is literally going to take hardly any time. Every one of you are going to sit back in your chair, and you will do this with your eyes closed. So you'll hear me say, close your eyes, start to breathe out 3, 2, 1, in, and you breathe in and you keep breathing in until I say out, and you keep breathing out until I say in. Get into that rhythm. Don't hold your breath. Don't count. Just relax. Halfway through, I'll say, keep breathing to that timing, and I'll say nothing. Keep your eyes closed, and there'll be dead silence, and that's where the magic happens. Here we go. Sitting back, eyes closed, starting to breathe out, and in 3, 2, 1, in. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Keep breathing to that timing. There we go. So that was just 2 minutes. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. 2 minutes, that's all it was. It feels like a lifetime. Every so often you'll go into the no thoughts. You cannot overdo that breathing technique.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise today. We really, really appreciate it. We'll put a link up for the sleep article you were talking about. We'll get that up on our website as well. But thank you, Lance, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. And we close today with karakia. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wāti Aotearoa, kia tūruki whakataha ai, kia tūruki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie, tai, ka kite. Thank you, everybody.
Ka kite koutou.
This has been a Physiotherapy Board Te Puari Tiaki Tinana podcast. It was recorded live in November 2025 as part of our regular webinar series. You can see a video version of this program at the education section of our website, where you can also learn more about the topics that were discussed. A follow-up podcast featuring answers to viewer questions received during the webinar has also been recorded, and you'll find a link to that episode in the show notes or on the webpage. If you want to share your thoughts about it with us, you can email us at physio@physioboard.org.nz. Kia ora.